Kobalt Music is proud to present this wonderful new artist-on-artist interview between the incredible mxmtoon and Hayley Kiyoko. May not only brings us Mental Health Awareness Month, but also AAPI Heritage Month, and to help us celebrate, these multi-talented artists share their stories in this new conversation. Maia and Hayley talk about their careers thus far, their inspirations, and representation in art. They speak to their upbringings, learning to share their careers with their families, and they speak to their mental health experiences, learning to really enjoy and savor the success of that hard work. They also answer some fan questions at the end, so be sure to stay tuned for that. When you're done listening, you could head to our Spotify page where we've got a special playlist curated by these women, spotlighting some of their favorite AAPI artists. They've also hand-selected a few tracks from each other's catalog. Enjoy.
All right.
Hi,
It's
Hayley.
us. Hi, Maya. It's so nice to meet you finally.
I know, it's nice to meet you. I mean, it's Zoom, so as
Well,
close as we'll get. But
This is
it's super...
this is pretty in person as it gets for now. Where are
We're
you
socially distanced. We're doing well.
Where are you at right now?
I'm in Brooklyn, New York. So I moved here last year though, but I'm from the Bay Area in California. What coast and city are you on?
I'm in LA. So
Nice.
I'm in our home state right now.
Uh
I know. We're both, I believe, queer, and
Yep.
we both are from California,
yes.
and we both are biracial.
Yep. Go
Wow.
us.
Wow. This is a moment. This is truly a moment.
It's always nice to meet someone who has I mean, I feel like I'm always psyched when I meet somebody with like one similar identity as me, but
I know.
we're taking off a bunch of boxes.
We're like mirroring each other, but obviously I'm sure we have extremely different experiences. But
Yes.
this is very, very, very exciting.
It's exciting.
So
Yeah.
Thanks for hanging out.
Of course. Happy to be here. I'm excited to go through some questions and have a conversation with you about what your journey has been thus far. Yeah.
I know, same. I mean, like, where do we even begin?
There's so many ways that you could start this. I feel like there's a bunch of questions that we have written down that we can go through and kind of talk with together and everything. But yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to ask me a question? Then I'll ask you a question.
For sure. I have one written down that's right here. It says, what were some of your musical role models or icons growing up? And do you have any family members that introduced you to a love of music in your life before you started writing? Mm-hmm.
Well, my mom's an ice skating choreographer and my dad's a comedian.
What?
So yeah, I grew up with lots of music in my household. Like my dad always played the same mixtape every day where we literally, me and my siblings, would memorize the order of every track list. So we did grow up with music, but I think both of them being performers and my mom being like an artist, you know, with ice skating, and there's production design and wardrobe. I think I always kind of grew up with like, I just loved big productions, and like that is something that I wanted to be a part of, but I didn't really know, you know, where. And then obviously when I saw like NSYNC perform at the Staples Center, I was like, oh my gosh, like that is me. Like that is me on the inside. Like I need to live this life. And so that's kind of what sparked this whole, maybe I need to be a musician.
That's so sick. Ice skating choreographer. That's like,
yeah.
How did your mom get into that?
She's from Montreal, so she's Japanese Canadian.
Cool.
And so I don't honestly know. We might need to bring her on. But yeah, she was ice skating, and that's her world. And so I have like fun memories of like going into warehouses with like these beautiful dresses and costumes and glitter, and collecting fabric pieces with my sister, and you know, just like stuff like that. So it was an interesting upbringing. What about you? What was like, who were your inspirations like with music, or like were your family like involved?
Yeah. I mean, both my parents are educators, so they were both teachers. And so I think like that was what I thought I was going to do for a very long time of my life, was just go to college, get a master's in education, go teach kindergarten or something.
Which is great. That is great. And great option.
I still might do it. Who knows? I don't know where life will go, but I thought that was what I was going to do. And my parents made me play music from like a young age, because grew up with a Chinese mom. I feel like it was kind of required for many
Mm-hmm.
Asian kids I knew to like learn a classical instrument because it was a part of like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, discipline and
Yeah.
extracurriculars. So I learned how to play cello and violin growing up. And then I didn't find singing until like, goodness, I just decided to audition for my 5th grade rock band after I switched schools because I needed to make friends. And they were playing Wonderwall, of course. And I knew how to play cello. And I was like, oh my God, wouldn't it be so cool to play cello in this rock band? Obviously, they didn't want me to play cello in the rock band. So the music teacher was like, hey, can you sing? And I said, kind of. Like I sang it at home with my dad, who would play guitar with me sometimes. And I auditioned with that, and I ended up like kept singing after that point. But both of my parents, like, I don't think they really thought of music or really creative stuff very much as a feasible sort of career path, just because neither of their kids really ever thought that
Mm-hmm.
was possible either. But here I am, and they're very supportive now. But it was definitely a path and a
Yeah,
journey.
I'm sure that was definitely challenging. I feel like anytime we do things that are slightly different from our
Mm-hmm.
parents' path, it's so funny because like that is like the total opposite of my experience. Like because I'm one of three, and so I'm the only
Wow.
child that went into like the industry, and like
Mm.
that like my parents like they never like pushed college. Like it was like
Mm-hmm.
they were like, be talented at something and then make money doing
Wow.
that. And like and my siblings are the opposite. They just want to
Mm-hmm.
like live life and not do that. And so they don't understand that
Mm-hmm.
other side. So it's really fascinating because
Wow.
um luckily I did like, creating art. Otherwise
Luckily, you were talented and
otherwise we
made
would
money off of it. Yeah.
but but yeah, so it was kind of like they were always force like not forcing us but just like wanting us to follow
Mm.
our dreams that make very little money. That can be very, it's like, okay, cool, let me just join the like the hardest industry in the world, sure,
It's a
why
lot of
not.
pressure. Yeah. And did you always feel like you were like wanting to go down that path? And were there any doubts in the process of pursuing art and craft?
I think I always have, I know that I know what I love to do, and
Mm-hmm.
I know that I definitely have a purpose, like, and existing is a huge part of my purpose.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I'm sure you can relate to it. It's just the industry is very challenging. So like
Yeah.
I feel like I feel like every release I have, I'm facing a wall of doubt and kind of
Mm.
be and not the doubt of myself because I do believe in myself. Which obviously takes a lot of work and like
Mm-hmm.
nurturing, but there's just doubt of like, okay, well, what if it doesn't connect, or
Mm-hmm.
what if this doesn't work out, or what if
Yeah.
something doesn't really like blossom into what this vision that I'm championing and
Mm-hmm.
convincing people of. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that that's just normal to have that self-doubt. I think that that's honestly healthy because then it just like checks you and it's like, is this what you actually want? And then you're like,
Yeah.
yes, or like you're
Mm-hmm.
like no, and then you kind of pivot. um what about you?
I mean, I definitely think like I doubt so many of the things that I do in my career, like the art that I make. And largely, I think, because it's like I'm, I never thought that this would be my job. I never like thought that this would be a possibility for me. And I've been making music only for the last 4 years now and putting it out into the world. So I'm like literally just a child in the greater scale, like scheme of the music industry and entertainment industry as a whole. And I came from a family that didn't have any familiarity with it either. And so I've been
Yeah.
like trying to figure out how this works in this weird world and everything, and dealing with, imposter syndrome like the entire
Mm-hmm.
time of trying to navigate, like, okay, exactly. I believe in myself. I feel confident in who I am as a person. But in the context of this larger world, like, how do I fit in with that? And how do I
Mm-hmm.
feel confident in a larger community of people and not just on my own? But again, like being self assured with your own individual is definitely the most important piece of that.
How
But
has
yeah.
how has your journey been like as a queer artist navigating the industry? Like it's great to be able to ask you that because I feel like everyone always asks me that question. So
Well, yes, I can also answer it and not just have it all fall on you. It's been like, I feel like it's been really interesting, and I think as an Asian woman specifically, like people oftentimes don't pin us necessarily as being like Asian people being queer. I think is something that lots of people don't necessarily associate for some weird reason. I think it's just like a preconceived notion. So being like bi and talking about that openly every single time I talk about my sexual identity, so many people are like, what? No way. And I'm like, bro, I literally talked about how pretty girls were yesterday. Like, please just catch up. But I don't want it to be some sort of phenomenon every single time I discuss my sexuality. So I don't know. I think it's at times frustrating to continuously combat the preconceived notions that I think a lot of people have. But I think it's also really meaningful because providing representation for people who identify the same way as you is one of the most powerful and rewarding things I think that we can do. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean,
yeah.
I think like just being a part of the community, you have to accept the fact that you will always be coming out to people.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, listen, I'm a little different. Like, I feel like I knew I was gay since I was 5, and I'm sure everyone I probably went to school with are probably like, yes, Hayley, we know. And I was like, I'm gay. They're like, yes, we're very much aware. So maybe I have a little bit of a different experience, but yeah, I hear you for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I knew I was bi for a really long time. I guess I just didn't know that wasn't normal. I honestly thought like everybody thought everyone was attractive, and I didn't understand that wasn't a thing.
That's great, because I was like walking around town like and looking at people being like, just like, I know I'm different.
Aww.
I'm like, like I just knew. I was like, I know it's not normal to want to marry my first grade teacher. Like, she is just perfect and my dream woman. Like, I just know this, and I can't tell anyone, and
so funny.
It's just not normal,
First grade teachers really got something going on. I don't know. Yeah. But I had a question for you actually that I thought about yesterday, and I mean, I've consumed a lot of the media you've acted in. I've listened to your music, and one of the questions of course, my friend and I were actually thinking, because I was like, oh, I'm talking to Hayley tomorrow, and I'm like really excited and really nervous. What's something that like we've been watching you on TV like for a long time. It's like, how can we ask her a question that feels like meaningful? And we came up with like, were the characters that you played throughout your acting career, like, were those queer coded, or were those inspired by your own identity and the influence that you had on the character? Like, because I mean, I think a lot of the people you've played have become very iconic to individuals who've been grappling with their identity.
Thank you. No, that's just my queerness just seeping through. That's awesome. That's just me not being being able to mask it. No, yeah, it's interesting. I look back at some of the roles and hearing people's experiences, and just coming to terms with their sexuality just by like having a crush on one of the characters, or I don't know. I mean, they definitely weren't written to be queer, and I think that's just, I just have a natural essence. Like I said, I'm even, when I was in the closet, I'm sure people knew. So I think that was just the sugar on top, I guess. I guess that's the sugar on top of everything I do, is that, I can't really hide that part of myself too much. I have played some straight roles though. I was in a movie called XOXO. It was actually one of the first Netflix films ever, and I was like, Netflix making movies? Like, what?
Oh man.
But I was pretty straight in that movie. You'll have to check that out. But I just have an essence. I don't know what it is. It's just
it's
gay.
Awesome. I mean, it's great. As like a gay kid watching those things, I was like, yes, this is like, I feel very seen right now to see like another biracial person on the screen acting out a character. I was like, I feel a little like there's something going on here. Like, I think I feel very affinitized with this character. So yeah, it meant a lot.
Wow. Thank you. I
Of
appreciate that.
course.
Let me ask you a question. Has there been
Okay.
a specific moment in your career where you felt validated as an artist?
Ooh, I think that one of the first times where I was like, oh wow, I made it. It was probably when I got
Yeah, tell me when you made it. Tell me when you
oh
made it.
God. I still constantly, I mean, like for the last 12 months, I've existed in my bedroom and I'm like, nobody listens to my music at all because I haven't like played a live show in a year. And so it's so much a
Right.
weird experience to connect the dots. But I think like the first moment, there's been a couple where I'm like, oh wow, this is real and it's happening and I can't believe it. But
Mm-hmm.
the first time was probably I got interviewed by the New York Times. And I think up until
Epic.
that point was a super cool moment. Very few
Mm-hmm.
things have topped that. And it's just really neat. But my grandparents, I think at that point were still kind of like, what is Maia doing? Like fiddling around on her ukulele and singing. Like they couldn't
Right.
really connect the dots that this was my full-time job. And I
Mm-hmm.
decided at that point not to go to college. And that was
Mm-hmm.
something that was a very big deal.
Yeah, I can
And
imagine.
yeah, when that article came out, like my grandparents like went and got the paper
Mm-hmm.
and were reading it online and it clicked with them. They're like, wow, our granddaughter's doing this. That's so cool. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that point, it was less of like, wow, the New York Times wrote about me, but more like, oh my God, my grandparents believe that I actually do my job and like I'm doing this for a living. So I think that was the point where I was like, oh, okay, this is real and it's happening now that my family also understands that.
That's
Yeah.
emotional. Makes me choked up just hearing about it. That's really sweet. I
It was
love
very
that.
sweet. Yeah. Yeah. Have you had any moments that have felt really surreal in your career in terms of like what you remember as very pivotal?
Yeah, I mean, I think Girls Like Girls, when I released that, that was
Mm-hmm.
kind of like a pivotal moment in my career and always will be, just because that was kind of like this coming out moment, but also in the sense of like, oh, I can just be myself
Yeah.
and do music parallel, because I
Mm-hmm.
spent so many years hiding or like masking my lyrics to what I was actually going through, and hiding what I was actually going through. And so that was like such a liberating moment for me as a creator, and kind of like set the path of like my purpose in life, I guess, finding a
Mm-hmm.
community. My fans have, they are my community that I didn't have growing up,
That's so
or
sweet.
that I didn't feel like I had growing up. And so that was a big moment. And yeah, I mean, I can relate with you. It's like I came out to my parents many times. I came out to my parents in middle school as bi, because I thought it like,
Mm-hmm.
soften the blow, because I knew I
Yes.
was all the way on one side. And then, um, and then they're like, it's just a phase. Um, and then in high school, but I wasn't really comfortable with myself as I was
Mm-hmm.
coming out to them. And then it was like, once the world was like supporting me, they had a better reaction in a weird way, because they were like, oh, like you're going to be okay, kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm also grateful for my fans in that Girls Like Girls moment too, because it helped my relationship with my parents, and just being comfortable with, hey, here's my girlfriend, or like,
Oh, it's so
hey, like,
sweet.
just being more open, because they were able to know that like I was going to be okay,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm sure that's how your parents feel too. It's like they just want
Mm-hmm.
you to have a good life, or have the best life that you can have.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like that's such a sentiment in so many Asian households, of course, of like in anybody's like family. I think that's if hopefully your parents will want you to be safe and cared for and loved. But
Yeah.
I feel like it's that unspokenness within at least like Asian culture that I've experienced of this feeling of like my grandparents not necessarily understanding fully that this was my job, largely because they just couldn't fathom like, okay, Maya needs to like go have like a set salary at a job
Mm-hmm.
because then we'll know that she'll be okay and she'll be taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for them to realize that like, oh no, there's this community of people supporting her online and people are looking at this and acknowledging it as real. Like she is doing
Mm-hmm.
that. She's just doing that in a different way.
Have
Yeah.
you felt, yeah, like I think too, like my mom, um she's always set extreme high expectations for myself and just for everything around. I don't know if you relate to that, but I also feel like that's part of like our Asian heritage of just like, if you're going to do something, you have to be really, you have to be the best. And so that it's like, it's been a strength, but also a weakness, because it's made me an extreme perfectionist, and everything I do has to be like the absolute best. And it's a lot of pressure. I don't know if you felt that, but with my mom obviously coming from being an athlete, it's just like, it's a lot. Like, I had to have a conversation with my mom where I was just like, you know, I live in my own place now. I have my own career. Like, I don't need you to watch my videos and tell me that this needs to be better, or this needs to be better, or you should have done it this way. I was like, I just need you to support me. Like, I just need you to be like, hey, great job. Even if you don't think it's a great job, I just need you to tell me that I did a great job. And like, that's what I need from you. And it's interesting because as you grow, your parents also have to either grow with you or like adjust, because I was just like, I need you to give me a break for a second, because it's a lot to live up to.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think our experiences in that sense are very similar. I grew up with a lot of those expectations of like, I think my mom was consciously aware of how that impacted her growing up and was trying very hard not to make her own children feel like that. But, you know, you can only do so much. Like, you grow a little bit as a parent from your own experience of being a child. But my own mom, like, I grew up with a younger brother, and I think my younger brother got a little more chance than I did to kind of mess up in certain areas. And I was the older sister.
Does. Yeah.
Yes, I was the older sister, and I was like just trying really hard to like keep it all together and do as best as I could and everything. And the perfectionist mindset has definitely taken its toll on me and made it really like impossible for me to enjoy certain things if like I'm making them or whatever. But I also had to have a similar conversation with my dad when I was first starting to do music, where he was trying very hard to like read up on the music industry, follow step by step what I needed to do. He'd be like, you need to do this and you need to do that. And I was like, Dad, please, I just want you to be my dad. Like, can you just say like, give me a hug at the end of the day? Let's say that's all I need. I don't want a manager out of my own father. Like, please just do that. And he was like, oh, okay, I got it. But
sometimes you have to set those boundaries though.
You do,
I feel like that's like a really great conversation to have, because like so many times you don't realize like, hey, I just need to communicate to my parents like what I need from them, because they think they're helping, but sometimes it's just like
it's just too much.
You're not helping me. You're making situations worse.
1,000%. Gosh, parents.
So and it's interesting. I mean, I've recently made a connection and with like my mental health that like this is not like a mind-blowing moment, but like my extreme perfectionism is like completely linked to my depression that I suffer from. And it steals away the joy. It takes away so many moments. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, so now I'm more aware of it, where I like I'll go into a restaurant and I'm like, I'm not sitting at the right table or whatever, and I'll be like, it's okay. Like, I'll be like, it's fine. Like, you're good. Like, I hear you, but you're good. What has your experience been with just like mental health, and like what like kind of helps you get through it, or like what's been a positive impact on your mental and emotional well-being?
Yeah, mental health is something I like absolutely struggle with. I didn't know that I had anxiety growing up. I didn't know that I had depression. And then
I didn't know I had anxiety either. Literally. It was just so normalized. I was like, what do you mean?
Everybody was like always on the verge of like having a panic attack. Like, you don't feel stressed out by like walking around and waking up in the day. That's so crazy. So I've definitely like, I'm still trying to figure it out. Like, I'm in therapy now. And
that's great. I'm in therapy too.
I love therapy. Therapy's great.
High five. Yeah.
High five for therapy. But I think like I think the thing that consumes me the most is the people pleasing perfectionist that like I grew up trying to really fulfill, and that brings on this like enormous amount of guilt whenever I'm not able to like live up to the expectations I've set for myself. And I thought about it one session in therapy where I was talking about it out loud, being like, this is really eating away at me and making it impossible for me to experience joy. Like, why can I just not be happy? And my therapist was like, so why do you feel like you can't prioritize being happy? Like, why is it that doesn't feel like an important emotion enough for you to focus on that a little bit more?
Right.
And I was like, oh, I don't know. I guess, like, what if I'm not productive when I'm happy? And what if I'm not doing like all these things that I'm trying to make myself do? And she was like, but at least you'd be happy. And I was like, you make a good point. So I think like now I'm just trying to make a conscious effort to decide like when are emotions going to help me a little bit more than they will hurt me, and trying to meditate upon that slightly more and being kind to myself. I think that's like the biggest thing, is just cutting myself a break, because I would do that for other people. So why can't I not do that for myself? Mm-hmm.
Facts.
Yeah.
Total facts. I can relate to that for sure.
Yeah.
We deserve to have happiness.
Exactly.
We deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be survival every single day. You know?
Definitely not. Yeah. And that brings us to like a fan question that we actually got. And it's, how are you feeling lately? You want to look at it? I think it's in the chat.
Oh, that's a vague question. How are you feeling lately? But it's a great question. We love Badass Kiyoko. Shout out. Who asked the question? How am I feeling lately? I'm so excited to be speaking to you. I'm doing well. I think I'm like, there's some anxiety with things opening up, which I think is just like trauma and just transitions of like, oh, there's human beings. Like, oh, are we good? Like, I got my vaccination. Are we like, so I'm kind of like in the transitional phase of like, oh, things are adjusting, and oh, I'm going to be able to travel more and potentially, like you said, be able to do shows. And so I think everyone just needs to mentally prepare for some form of just like adapting, because we had to adapt last year, and now we're going to probably have to adapt again, because we're used to having our own boundaries and not seeing people, and for myself, really prioritizing myself and cooking good meals and having the time to do that. And now I don't have the time to do that. But yeah, how are you feeling?
I think we're in the same boat, like grappling with the newfound anxiety of returning back to normal life. And I realized the other day, I'm like, what we're even returning to is nothing that we were actually familiar with in the beginning, because we went from doing these things without masks, without social distancing, being in person, and then all of a sudden cold turkey, going into separate spaces, not having any of that. And then now like it's this weird mixture of the two things and returning back into it. So it's like this third thing that we're trying to like deal with separately. And I was like, oh, I have no clue how to do that. And so it's just this next chapter and trying to navigate that. But yeah, like I got really into cooking over quarantine. I'm sad that like I'm just gonna be wandering around in airplanes and Airbnbs.
I don't have time to spend 4 hours on my meal anymore.
Yeah. I loved having that time. I'm gonna be so sad not having it anymore. Yeah, but I'm doing okay. Like taking it a day at a time, I think. That's all you can
do.
Good.
We have another fan question from Ava the person.
Yes.
What ukulele do you use, style and brand?
Ooh, I don't know if you own any ukuleles.
Well, you know, I do. I think I have a really like crappy ukulele, but it's from Lemonade Mouth. Like we all got like ukuleles.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Do I have
oh my gosh.
No, I don't have it on the wall, but I'll show it to you someday.
That's such a sick thing to own. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's like it's signed, but like again, I don't know if it's like a nice. It's yellow.
Honestly, the great thing with like ukuleles is that like they don't need to be good. They
yeah, like I have no idea. You'll have to show me. I have no idea how to, but it's just on my wall.
That's so cool. I mean, that's way cooler than the one I have. I think I use like a Kala baritone ukulele, which is like a mixture. It's tuned like a guitar, but you play it like the ukulele, and that's like my favorite instrument. It's so easy to use. Yeah.
I love that, and you can just like play it anywhere you go. It's like
exactly. It's like such a
it out of my backpack.
Size.
Here we go.
Yes, perfect. Traveling with it's so easy. And then we have a question from Cami, MTZ25, I think, for you. It says, which music video for you did you have like the most fun recording?
recording, like shooting the video,
I
I'm
think
assuming.
so. Yeah.
I mean, every music video that I've directed has been a challenge. And so I have very fond memories over every video because like something always goes wrong and then there's always this challenge and then we overcome it and then we get through it and then it's out to the world. I mean, I've had that's like really a challenging, and that's like someone's like, what's your favorite song? It's like you can't pick, you know what I mean? It's like you just can't.
Yeah, exactly.
Like they're just so different. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind, which is like an extreme throwback, but I did a music video called Cliff's Edge, and we were stealing the shots up north in California, and I made everyone go into the lake, all the dancers, and we were like freezing and like just shake, like the water was so freaking cold, and we shot the video over 2 days, and we stayed at like my mom's friend's house in the basement. There was like 6 of us like sleeping there. It was just kind of like, I don't know, it was just really fun because it was just so rogue, and like I don't know how we got that video done, but like those are some of my favorite memories of just like really trying to make things happen when it feels like the universe is against you. So that's like one of my favorite memories. And obviously I've Found My Friends is a new video that I have out and song, and that was really challenging to pull off as well, just with like the pandemic and locations and everything. I thought it would be a little easier because everything was closed down, but it made everything so challenging. And, but yeah, that was so much fun.
Sounds wild, being freezing cold in a lake.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm an Aries, so I love to involve water in everything that I do, like even if I'm not like subconsciously like aware of it. But yeah, I always try to put myself in water. I don't know why I do that and torment myself.
But it makes for good memories. That's okay.
Yes, it does.
That's fine.
It does. There's another question. This is from JXN. Did pursuing a music career cause a lot of strain in your family relationships? Coming from an Asian background myself, I know that the traditional Asian perspective stresses the need to be practical over dream chasing. I know we discussed that a little bit, but if you want to
Yeah, I mean, like just kind of recapping what we talked about earlier, I think we both had different experiences with that, but
yeah,
I know like with my own family, it definitely took them a second to just come on board and be like, oh yeah, okay, Maia's doing this and she's not going to get like an architecture degree like she promised us. So yeah, I just didn't end up doing that, and I ended up doing something else, but it was okay. I think as I eventually proving to them that my dream chasing was practical was definitely a big thing.
Yeah.
How about you?
I think for myself, I've just been relentless. Like I don't really give my parents a choice, honestly. And like they just know that they wouldn't be able to tell me, but I think I was fortunate enough that my parents understood kind of like the arts, and they were pushing it. I think my struggle with them is more so like you were saying, like the micromanaging and like the notes. Yeah. It's like, I don't need the notes. Like I don't like, let me just like create, and let me have my own like ridicule and like the negative comments. Like I don't need like, the constructive criticism that you love to give me since I was like out the womb. And that just goes again to like being able to communicate to your parents like, hey, this is my need, I just need you to give me a hug, like watch my video and give me a hug, like that's it. You know what I mean? We just all want to be loved. We all want to feel like we matter, and we do matter, and I think that that's like the most important thing.
Totally. That's a great way to put it.
But yeah, this has been so much fun.
Yeah. Thanks for talking with me.
Thank you for talking with me. This is so cool. I'm so excited for you and about your art and your career and just you as a person. And I know you do your podcast, and I know you do a lot of things for the community. So, keeping amazing and multitasking like you're doing. And I'm excited for it. I'm sure we'll see each other
Thanks,
at like a
Hayley.
festival or like
Yeah.
performing live,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? So I'm stoked for that. That's
I'm
going to
sure
be
it'll
so
happen.
much fun.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And thanks for being like a guiding light in the kind of forefront of queer Asian Americans and everything. So that's been a huge impact in like the confidence that I've even had to do this in my own life. So
Aw,
I
yay.
appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Sweet.
Well,
Yeah.
have a great rest of your day.
You too. Take care. Stay safe out there.
Thanks, Maya.
No problem. Thanks, Hayley.
Bye.
Bye.